Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the We Knife Co. Gava. That's how I'm going to pronounce it anyway. Very compelling aesthetic from We, and let me start off by saying that there have not been a whole lot of new We designs that I've been super interested in. Initially, you know, we're all different. We all have different tastes and aesthetics, right? But what makes you initially interested in a design is the aesthetics, or are the aesthetics, right? And a lot of times, We knives just don't do it for me. This has a very clean, very crisp aesthetic, and the first time that I saw it on the coming soon page for Blade HQ, I thought, I am definitely interested in taking a look at that. And thanks to my buddies over at the Apex Pass Run group, shout out to the Apex Pass Run group, I was able to get my hands on it, so thank you very much. There will be links for this knife right down in the description. There are two variants of it, so you can pick this knife up if you want to, or you can stick around for the review and, you know, check out the links afterwards. Either way, checking out my links would absolutely mean the world to me. What would also mean the world to me is if you checked out my Patreon. Thank you so much to my generous patrons for supporting me right now. You can find that link down in the description. There's some stickers and some other cool stuff, and please follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. All right, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Overall length of the We Gava coming in at about 7.75 inches overall. Nice length there. Blade length coming in at 3 1/4, so that's going to be over the 3-inch mark for those of you who live in an area where 3 inches is the line. Be cognizant of that. Blade length is coming in at 3 inches on the dot. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall. You can see there, it's not a small knife, but it's not a big knife either. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 is coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue is coming in at 8 inches overall, so it's close to the same size as the Griptilian or Ritter Hogue, a little bit shorter. And last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7 1/4 inches overall. How's the action on this guy? The action's great. This is a We knife. It runs on bearings. Takes a little tiny bit of encouragement to close, but it is very nearly frictionless. Exactly what you'd expect from We knives. In fact, it feels like maybe there's a little bit of extra sauce in there, maybe a little bit more smoothness than what I've been feeling from We knives. Then again, it's been a little bit. Yeah, it feels really good. This knife, We knives, for anybody who doesn't know, are manufactured in China, but they are amongst some of the highest quality manufacturing companies for knives that exists. So there's a huge difference between this and like M-Tech or, you know, other Chinese companies that just sort of stamp and press their knives together. No, this is a super high-end piece using very premium, very high-quality materials. And it is apparent the moment that you pick this up. But everybody watching my channel probably already knows that now. The flipper tab is very sort of short and stubby and non-obtrusive. You can get a hold of it. I'm not going to say it's so small you can't engage it. I mean, you definitely can. You can, I always want to push button it, but I think it's more of a approach it right here and just pull down, in which case it works perfectly. So there's no issue with the action at all. The detent is great. Nice little click there. And as far as double clutch and disengagement of the frame lock goes, it's easy to disengage the frame lock, but that flipper tab is so short that you really have to make sure your thumb's all the way up there. There's no double clutch. The detent ball is up on the face of the blade, but you really have to make sure that your thumb is up there if you want to block that blade from coming down on your fingers. So just be cognizant of that. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools. All of my tools are available down in the description. I've got some expensive choices and some inexpensive choices. We're going to go ahead and use the Scout bit driver here because I just like that one. I'm going to guess that the pivot is a T8 because that is usually the case with We knives. Let's go ahead and give that a shot there. Yeah, and then I believe that all the other screws are actually T8 as well. Yeah, that's something that We generally does get right. Fantastic, very minimal hardware. You can see there's just a few screws on this thing all the way around, and they are all T8, which is wonderful. Thank you for doing that. It makes it really easy and not scary to disassemble a knife like this when everything is a nice large fastener. You know, it's great on your bits, great on the fasteners. It's easy, you're not going to strip anything, so that's wonderful. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see there that this is about exactly the same thickness after you get those the bevels out of the way and you line up where the flats are on the surface. So no issues there. How about length and height up against two knives are a bit awkward in the pocket, the Spyderco PM2 and Para 3. You can see there that because of its shape and profile, it's nowhere near as high or as long as the PM2. It's about the same length and handle, maybe a little longer than the Para 3, but again, nowhere near as tall. So that's wonderful. Not going to be an issue in the pocket unless you're wearing athletic shorts every single day. Let's take a look at the inside. You can take a look at, you can check out my flashlight by finding it in the description there. The inside is milled out, which is wonderful. Let's go ahead and do weight on this guy. So the weight of the Gava in full titanium coming in at, that is amazing. Really, actually online it says 4 ounces, 3.74 ounces for full titanium. That's wonderful. It's not quite to that ounce and inch mark as far as like blade length to overall weight ratio, but under 4 ounces for me, I don't have a problem. That's really lightweight to me, so I don't have an issue with that whatsoever. The other nice thing here that's contributing to you know, there not being an excess of weight, let's go ahead and measure it at its thickest point, is the blade stock thickness, which is coming in at 125 thousandths. That's perfectly welcome. A few knives from in the past have been a little bit excessively thick. This is not the case here. The end result of carry profile and weight is this is going to be very easy to carry for the vast majority of people. If you've been carrying the Para 3 lightweight and bug out forever and you consider anything heavier than those to be heavyweight, then this isn't going to be for you. But for everybody else, this is going to feel right at home, almost no matter what it is that you're wearing. I just don't have a problem with that. I mean, I love it when a knife is full titanium and you get a fairly decent sized knife and it comes in at under 4 ounces. That's just, you know, that makes me happy. It makes a lot of people happy. Even though my preferred weight range is actually a little bit higher than that, it's nice to see ratios like that. All right, let's go ahead and talk about aesthetics and the design, fit and finish, stuff like that. So we have some very simple, sort of dark, acidy, tumbled titanium scales here. I love how does their pivot. I comment on that all the time. It keeps all that crap and bannering off the blade. We have the designer's logo on the other side, which truthfully, I don't know anything about the designer. I'm so sorry about that. But I do like how executes this. They put their logo on the pivot. It looks nice and classy. It keeps the blade looking clean. I very much appreciate that. They've got a little bit of machine work going on around the pivot. It's nice. It's not too busy. It follows the rest of the lines with the knife. And it's just nice. You know, sometimes companies will show off their abilities in complex machining. And it's really cool and it's impressive, but it throws off the design. I mean, I love it when, you know, a company and a designer take into consideration the overall profile and how the lines naturally flow, right? You can see this line flows into the blade, and then down here the cutting edge sort of flows up here and follows this line, and then this little milling in here that goes around the pivot is wild and it's all over the place, but at the same time it does sort of follow the same style, right? The whole thing is very well thought out aesthetically, and while it is monochromatic, you know, the finish from the scales goes up to the blade, I like that. And guess what? It's contrasting with bronze hardware in this case. Now there is another version of this. I think it's a little bit of a lighter blade and maybe some black tumbled scales. Still, you get that bronze contrast. I think I'm a big fan of bronze hardware when it's contrasting with colors like gray and black or carbon fiber, things like that. I really like that. Big, heavy applause, seriously, for the design and the aesthetic execution of this knife. This is a winner. It looks really, really good. On top of that, this is a knife where I can pretty comfortably get 4 fingers around the knife, and that's a big plus for me as well. I wear an XL glove, which means I have hands that are pretty normal. So most people are going to be able to grip this with a full 4-finger grip. You are a little bit crammed in there, but considering, you know, the size and weight of this knife, you know, I'm okay with that. All of the corners are nicely knocked down. There are no sharp edges or anything like that. If you try to approach the flipper tab like a push button, it's going to get a little bit pokey, but if you approach it like this, landing zone is nice and clean. It's easy to dis and get right. All of that's good. It's all very comfortable. The blade has this really cool notch cut out up here. It adds nothing in the way of utility. It just looks nice. And yeah, I like stuff like that. And again, it's following the lines back here. This is really cool. Look at this. I mean, I'm not saying that other companies have never done this before, but it just looks clean. It's kind of like classy tactical future. It's cool. I like that they did it this way. Take a look at how this flat interacts with the swedge. So the flat runs out maybe 50% the length of the blade, and then the swedge actually drops in front of the flat and then rises back up to the spine, and then you can see that, well, it ends right here, and then the rest of it is just the spine running out to the tip. The tip actually is a little bit more reinforced than I thought it would be. It's still pretty thin. I wouldn't be driving the tip into wood and then trying to pry with it or anything like that, but it's not going to be, a weak blade by any, stretch of the imagination. There is absolutely nothing in the cutting path, and here's the best part about this. Oh boy, that is a thin edge. That is nice. 125 thousandths on the spine isn't thick, so it's reasonable to think immediately it's probably going to be a pretty good cutter. It's actually a little bit thinner behind the edge than I thought it was going to be. Considering how much room they had to drop, they've got ample amount of room, but it's just I felt that behind the edge, and I was like, oh man, that is ready to go. This blade's going to be a performer, and it's in CPM 20 CV, which I think is appropriate considering the blade shape and geometry. I have zero to complain about in terms of this blade. I think the blade is handsome. It's going to be performance oriented. It's got a little bit of flair that goes with the design. They could have easily just left this blank or made it fully flat ground, which is cool in and of itself, but it's neat that they added these little touches to make it all translate and just, ooh, the flow, it's nice and crispy. The edge is done perfectly, nice and glassy, smooth. The cutting bevel is even on both sides, no wonkiness or anything like that. And there's a nice little sharpening choil, so that's great. Like I said, access to the lock bar is nice. There's little scallops on both sides, so you can always get your thumb in there. They didn't, well, actually they did raise it. Did they? No, I think it's flush. They don't really have to because they've got those little cutouts right there, so that's nice. Like I said, the hardware is bronze and it is T8. That is welcome. Backspacer looks great. Nothing special going on here. I will say I would have really liked for them to do the same polished bronze on the backspacer. I think that really would have looked nice, but it's not a big deal that it's tumbled. It's just there's an opportunity for some nice contrast there, and that's what I would like to see, but it's no big deal. Some would argue they could have done the same to the pocket clip. I'm actually okay with the pocket clip being this color. I don't know that I necessarily want something bright and reflective and flashy color hanging out of my pocket. I kind of like that the pocket clip, which is the thing that is going to be the most constantly exposed to things, is that acidy tumbled finish, because if it bumps into something, it's going to hide wear a lot better than a high reflectivity anodized surface, right? So I'm okay with that, but I really would have liked to see the backspacer that same bronze finish, but that's fine. This all still looks great. I got no issues with it. I love the pocket clip. Man, the pocket clip 3D sculpted titanium goes perfectly with the design, and you know what? It's pretty darn good at getting over the seam of most pockets, and it's going to carry relatively, it's not deep or shallow. It's going to be, about right here. That's a perfectly acceptable amount of pocket knife to stick up out of your pocket. Man, that's cool. It's just not, a lot of times companies, they just slap whatever on for the pocket clip, and a design can have such an interesting aesthetic, such an amazing flow, such an appealing flow, and then you flip it over and you look at the pocket clip and it's like, and it's just some thing they slapped. That is not the case here. Thank you for putting a cool 3D sculpted titanium clip on this knife that goes with the design, that carries relatively deep, and is easy to get over the seam of most pockets. That is wonderful. You can see here that they continue the same type of milling over to the other side. So that's cool. We have a nice high reflectivity bronze anodized pivot. This is the adjustment side over here. Really like that. Even the lock bar stabilizer screw is anodized bronze. This knife is perfectly centered, which is what I've come to expect from WE knives, and you should too. Locking up at about 45% or so. Absolutely solid. No blade play up, down, left, or right. And yes, the lock bar the lock bar insert does double as the over travel stop. So little tiny things that I can nitpick. The flipper tab is a little bit small. I mean, it's great that it's not obtrusive and it's not really a pocket pecker, as some of you guys like to refer to it as. It's a little tiny bit small, and some people are going to be a little bit confused, you know, on the initial engagement, but I think most people will figure it out pretty quick. It's going to be right here. Really, it's going to be, you know, up here. The flipper tab is so small that you have this very small area where, if you're like me, you use the flipper tab as sort of a safety stop against your thumb, and then you move your thumb out of the way and close it. If it were just a little bit longer, that'd be a little bit easier to do, but then again, it would be a little bit more obtrusive. So I suppose you can, you know, some people are going to look at that and go, that's not a flaw. I'm not going to listen to you, Complex. The blade is a little bit longer than the legal mark, you know, for some places, so that's not a flaw. Just keep that in mind. This is ergonomically, it's great. It's very comfortable, you know, to hang on to, but you are going to be, because it is 7 3/4 inches overall, right? If you've got a hand like mine, pretty normal hand, you're going to be a little bit cramped in here. Again, not really a complaint, just something to think about. Gosh, I would have liked to see that the backspacer was fully bronze anodized and reflective like the rest of this, but not really that big of a deal. Again, love the pocket. I mean, there's a lot of good here. There's a lot of good here. This is a really good knife. And while it is just another 20 CV titanium frame lock running on bearings, it is well done, right? I mean, it's another example. Honestly, I mean, it's good. It's another example of how we've kind of perfected the titanium frame lock. It's just another great titanium frame lock that's out there, you know, and it's a nice EDC size. It's a nice EDC weight. There is way more good here than there is bad. And the bad is just, it's just me going, ew, I wish this, or I wish this was that. You know, it's just little tiny things that are not really flaws. I think the biggest thing, you know, as is the case with many knives that I show on this channel, the biggest thing for a lot of people is going to be the price. This knife is $253. Do I think that's a fair price? Yeah, it's pretty competitive with a lot of the stuff that's out there, you know. It would have, a price that would have blown me away, around $220, $225, but it's like I always say, you can look at anything and go, boy, that sure would be nice if it was $20 less. Boy, that sure would be nice if it was $50 less, $100 less, or free. You know, so it's right in that area where, yeah, I mean, it's not quite to the area where I want to see excessively complex 3D milling or excessive like inlay work. There are knives in this price range that do have some of that stuff, but it's not something that I expect. Right? Having just titanium and nothing inlaid and just some really nice lines. In this case, I actually prefer it this way. Because of the lines, I don't know that I would really want an inlay. If we were going to do it, maybe something around here would be kind of cool, right? But I would imagine the price would still end up the same way. I think for what they set out to do, this is great. And the materials that they're using and those subtle hints of contrast with the bronze. This side is really nice looking. This is really, really good. I really like this. So, 253 bucks. You know, some people are going to go, I'm teetering on, yeah, there's a lot of other, and it's very competitive. The $250 mark in the knife world, super competitive. You can find a ton of stuff out there for 250 bucks. Is this going to fit in well? Yeah. If you end up spending 250 bucks on this knife, you're going to be really, those of you who have spent that type of money or near that type of money on a pocket knife and you know what to expect, is your money well spent there? I think so. It doesn't absolutely blow me away, but I think it's pretty good for the price. I'm being intentionally vague there because it's really hard to pinpoint exactly what to expect dollar for dollar. You guys know that. This knife, both variants, will be listed down in the description so that you can pick it up for yourself, as well as all available WE knives. So if you like how this looks and you're like, I'd like to see what else WE's got available, all of WE's stuff that's currently available, you know, as far as the retailers that I have affiliate links with, they'll be listed down below. So you can check all of that stuff out if you want to. Guys, that is going to be pretty much it for today's overview and review of the WE Gava. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.